Hi, I'm Mack, and I'm on a mission to see the hurting get healed and the healed go out and heal others, in order for all of us to experience the true love and light we desire. This podcast is me sharing my journey with you, so you don't feel alone in your journey. Welcome to the Golden Rule Revolution. Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome back to another episode of the Golden Rule Revolution. I am Mack. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for being the light in this world. Thank you for being someone who is standing in the gap, holding space for others to heal, which includes yourself. And speaking of healing, speaking of standing in the gap, and speaking of holding space, brothers and sisters, today I have the pleasure of bringing, Larry Knapp to the podcast. I met Larry at a plant medicine ceremony, an incredible man. And he looked at me and I looked at him like, who are you? He looked at me like, who are you? And we shook hands and it was so beautiful and powerful. And Larry is a former race car driver. He's going to get into this and goes from race car driving, living this incredible life, has a patent for race car driving, something with the motor or machinery of race cars, to going into federal prison. And the journey, and he explains this journey to coming out of prison and truly embarking on this journey, this purpose, this calling to heal. And when he and I met was just incredible. And this story is incredible. And I'm really excited to bring Larry, his very first podcast interview, his very first public speaking interview to the world. And so, brothers and sisters, I honor you. And brother Larry, I honor you. Thank you for coming on, and everyone enjoy. So everyone, like I mentioned in the intro, there are certain people you come across in life where you just know these are soul family. This is soul family. And Larry is one of those people in my life, brother, and friend, who, when we shared, when you journey together, there's deep connection. You see someone's raw vulnerability and honesty. And I just thank you for coming on. And I'm so excited to have you and hear your story and share your story, because it's important to reveal what beautiful masculinity is in a world where you have come up through this amazing, wild, hard story, hard life.
Yeah, it made me grow up. At 55 years old, I finally grew up.
Wow. So share your life. Where'd you grow up, literally, in the sense of where were you born and your life growing up?
Well, I was born in Saratoga Springs, New York, and I think back in history, part of my relatives owned part of the racetrack and a mountain and a lake, and that was just where I started. At the age of 4, I moved to Vermont, where my life really started. And I was a teeny tiny guy, so I didn't really make many friends. So I spent a lot of my time in the woods. I had a trapping line, and I was a hunter, and which blows my mind now, because that's the furthest thing from my mind, but I ended up feeding the family at times with my skills. So
wow,
I'd sell muskrat skins for $1 and beaver skins for 25 back in the 60s. So it was, it was just real different living off the land,
That's amazing. That's amazing. Who taught you how to do that?
Me.
Yeah.
It's been part of me ever since I was born. I was born with double pneumonia and was born a month early. So I struggled with life from the beginning. And a crazy story, I got to throw this in there. Yeah. This is something my mom told me when I was about 18, because I had a sunroom where I had to be because of my pneumonia, and I had a nurse. This lady took care of me, and I remember her face out of the crib. It looked like the church lady in that, whatever that skit was. But my mom told me, it turned out she killed the next kid she watched with an axe. And it's like, wow, I survived that. I guess that was the start of my life, was surviving something crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's nuts. But
no wonder
yeah,
you remember her face, because she's looking at you. You're looking back at her like,
now I wonder.
yeah, don't do it. Don't. Wow. So from learning to trap and hunt and process your own game and all that, um, how'd you get into, I mean, take me from that age to where you got into the motor sports and when you started getting drawn down that path.
Well, it's funny because I was from Vermont, and race car drivers don't come from Vermont. But I always, looked at Mario Andretti and Bobby Unser as kind of like my heroes. And when I was probably 15, I bought a go-kart from this place called Broad Acres, and with my newspaper and mowing money, I bought a Mack 9 racing engine. McCulloch Chainsaws made racing engines for go-karts back then.
Cool.
And living in Charlotte, Vermont, we had a little covered bridge by the lake. I rode the go-kart around like a 4-mile thing through the middle of town, down across the railroad tracks, and that was my racetrack. And everybody talked about this crazy kid on this go-kart. And that was my dream of life. Wow. Ever since I can remember, was to drive race cars. I don't know what my dad was a fighter pilot in World War II. And a quick story about that is, my dad and I didn't get along well. We had a tough life together. In fact, we didn't have one. But I was told a story by my mom that he and a pilot friend of his took off and inverted in front of the tower, and Corsair, tail dragging 3,000 horsepower piston engine planes.
Wow.
And he used to land on aircraft carriers. He never made the war, so he was like frustrated by not participating. But I was told he was a great pilot, so that maybe is my heritage. But then I thought to the Top Gun movie, where did that story come from? And it was just, as I've gone through the sacred medicine, I resented my dad through life because of how he treated me, but I came to understand who he is because of his generation, and then respect him. In fact, I've got something I hold in my hand every day, which is a lighter of his from
wow.
the aircraft carrier Guadalcanal.
Wow.
And now I cherish it in my hand, and I feel energy from this thing. And I hold it for a minute or so, and I honor my dad finally after despising him for all my life up until I started to do the sacred medicine. So that was how I guess I got my genetics to racing. But I did hill climbs and stuff in my old BMW 2002 in Vermont. They had these little weekend events where they closed the road off. And then I moved to California and did when I was like 20, 21. I did the whole West Coast, had a kind of a not pro, but a big deal. Where all the way to Boise, Idaho, Corvallis, Oregon, California. Wow. And I did this series in a BMW, and then bought a Formula A car, which is an old, like, little Indy car, and did it 1 year, and that got what they call King of the Hill, the fastest guy up the mountain. Wow. The whole thing. So I was in my blood.
Wow.
So
what was it like? What were the other race car drivers? Is there a fraternity or like a brotherhood of racing, or is it really competitive in that?
Well, there is, and there isn't. Racing for me was a big deal. I went through driver's school in like 1982 as a novice. My BMW race car wasn't ready, so I had to ask my wife at the time if I could use her brand new RX-7, put a roll bar in it and a fire extinguisher, and go through driver's school, and then the first 2 novice races, right? And she agreed, so that's how I started my racing career. And first race, I didn't know anything about it. But it was in my spirit. I did okay. And then the second weekend, they started the guys. The instructors would start who they thought had more potential. They'd put them in the back and see if they could pass anybody. So they put me in 21st place, and I passed all but one guy. In my second race, I beat like 6 national champions in my second race as a novice, and starting from way back, and I was hooked.
Wow.
You know, I didn't have kids at the time, but I would have sold them all. That's to do it.
You loved it. What, I mean, describe for someone who's never raced, what is racing? It's not driving. It's not someone's a driver on freeways. That's not what this sport is. There's a presence to being in that seat, and describe what that's like.
It's I've always had the focus, but it is a focus beyond. If you're any good at it and you don't crash much, if you have the focus that it takes to do it right, it is absolutely eliminating every other thought from your mind. I see pebbles and lines in the track. All I see are I see people around me without looking at them. I have this presence like a bubble around me, and I know where everybody is. It's a focus beyond anything. I remember in one race, and like maybe my second year, I was like, I started last and I passed everybody. I was already winning the race. And I started thinking about shopping, and I almost went off the track.
Wow.
It's like, and that's the last time I ever did that. And that was only like when I first started, but the focus is intense. It is. And I have ADD, so it was like, it was good for me to be, I can really zone in on things like that. So I was just good at it. It was just in me I had the cat-like feel in my butt. It's like your computer.
Yeah.
And I was a drummer as a kid in high school and stuff. So in race cars, you're using 2 feet and 2 hands doing all this stuff. And it's like a ballet. It's a symphony of motion. It's really cool.
Do you think that I've often wondered that consciousness where you say you could see the bubble, is there looking back, do you feel like you could actually see the purview, like consciously, not with your eyesight, but you knew like where the tail end of your car was?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, every within an inch. At one race in a Formula 2000, which is a little Indy car, I passed 21 cars on the first lap by starting last. And with open wheel cars, if you even touch tires, somebody's going in the air.
Wow.
And I just knew where the gaps were and knew I was going to be there. And I knew what they were going to do. I just had this weird second, third, fifth sense of spatial awareness. It's a cool freaking thing, I'll tell you. It's really cool.
Did you notice that you had that before you started racing? And was there any like a spiritual moment in your life growing up? And before you even answer that, it seems like hunting and trapping, although I understand you wouldn't do it now, there's also something very spiritual there to see a life and death and that whole cycle. Did you have the spiritual awareness or anything when you were very young?
Well, my respect for animals was if I shot it, I ate it, or I used his hide. I'll tell you, I even shot a chickadee once, and they taste horrible. They're like really bitter. They're a little teeny bird, right? It's silly stuff, but I was that respectful of the animals that I was around. And most of the time, I would like chase deer through the woods. I'd run, jump over logs, and you never catch anything. But it was just this cool free spirit because I spent most of my childhood alone. Brother that punched me in the face thought it was fun, and so I was just on my own, and I really loved it. And growing up in Vermont was a beautiful place to do that.
That's beautiful.
But
the only thing I know about Vermont is the movie White Christmas.
I think I saw that. It's much more beautiful than all that. It's really spectacular.
I bet.
And it was cool growing up there because all the farmers knew me. I was this long-haired kid, and I was a little different, I guess, but I was physical, active, and stuff. I grew up working on farms, baling hay, and that's where I got my strength from. Was we baled 3,000 bales one day and baled it off the field and put it in the hay mow. Wow. And you're throwing. I weighed about at that time. I might have weighed all of a bale of hay. I was like 82 pounds when I was a freshman in high school.
Wow.
So then they weigh 50 to 70 pounds if they're wet. And it just, that's kind of the stringiness I got. And the fighting spirit I had to have because I was a little guy that got pushed around a lot. So,
yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, you and I met, and we'll get into what that was and the beauty of that and how that's healed you and myself. But we met where there was a lot of big men around. I'm a big guy. There's a lot of big guys.
Yeah.
And you talked about, you grew up not feeling safe around men because you were always picked on. Like explain that journey of being bullied or being the smallest guy and what that was like for you.
Yeah, that was a tough, because like I say, I didn't have a dad to teach me how to be a young kid or a young man and a man. So I was just fending for myself.
And real quick, was your dad alive, just absent? Is that right?
Absent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a story about that. But he was basically, he spent 10 minutes with me once in the woods, and my whole life that was it, except for fiberglassing the bottom of a sailboat. But that was work. But yeah, I was, I was like a pawn in high school. I was pushed around by the big guys to start fights between the big guys, and I was made fun of, and I had long hair, and I was picked on and teased, and it was this bully thing. But it allowed me to develop a character of strength. I never took it like my feelings were hurt. I always took it as try to figure out how to compete with big men. And to me, big men were all buttheads and assholes. I mean, the way they talked about women and the whole thing was not what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I remember telling one guy, he became a good friend of mine. And I told him one day in the hall, I said, one day I'm going to be stronger than you and I'm going to kick your ass. He's like 6'2", and he looked at me like, yeah, okay. So when I started wrestling in high school as a junior, and it was like embarrassing as I was so shy. It was in front of the whole school at Christmas break.
Wow.
The hour before we get out of school, I'm wrestling against this farm kid that was really strong and ended up beating him. He says I pulled his pants down. That's why he lost, but we became friends. But I started lifting weights, and because of the bale and hay and stuff, I got a wrestling scholarship to UMass.
Wow.
I was graduated 5'3", I weighed 132 pounds, and I could bench press 325 pounds.
Wow.
Which is a lot for a little guy.
That's a lot. Yeah. That's a lot for big guys, some big guys. That's a lot.
But my big brother was big guy, he wasn't real tall, but he was a really big guy, like your built. And he could bench 400. So it was like, that was my challenge. So, and he helped me work out because he was going to UMass. And I went down there and did a men's open tournament. For the first time, didn't win and got my ass kicked. But that gave me the strength in life to persevere and get through stuff and to make it. If I didn't learn that physical presence as a kid or up through my teens, life would have been very different. But.
Did you end up finishing college? Did you go to UMass and did you go through that whole journey?
The scholarship wasn't for enough money, and my big brother really didn't want me down there. I'm 7 years younger, so it's like he had made college like a career. I guess he got a bachelor's or something out of it. But I went to have gone to a lot of colleges, but I got credits and stuff. But I went to the University of Vermont, and then spring break came, and I went to Fort Lauderdale, and I said, "Screw it, this is too much fun."
That's awesome.
That was my life. Yeah.
So when did you step into racing during this time?
I didn't get into racing till I moved to California. Really, that was when in 1982 is when I started. I went through SCCA driver school, which is a big deal. My first year, at the end of the first year, they said, "You're going to instruct next year." That was like this incredible honor. It's like, really? I'm going to be an instructor? And that was huge for me. And then I knew I must have something.
Wow.
and started teaching. And I would take all the women because the other instructors were too macho. And one year I had 3 girls. One was the best driver of 300 drivers.
Wow.
And the second one was the most improved driver. And they got like Yokohama jackets as trophies.
Wow.
And the third was a blonde girl, very pretty, who had a little white mouse on her shoulder. I said, no, you're just not serious about this. I'm going to have to flunk you. So, but it was fun to watch my students, go out and kick butt.
Yeah. So during this time, and you won a lot of races. Tell me about share with what you were able to accomplish in racing.
Yeah. It started from like my second race, starting 21st, finishing second. I broke the track record, beat all these national champions in my ex-wife's RX-7. It wasn't even a race car.
Wow.
And it was a class called showroom stock. So all these people competed, and they would go to the national championships in Atlanta, Georgia. And so these guys been around for years.
Wow.
And then my BMW I finished it for the third race and just started setting track records every time I was out on the track, and had a great bunch of competition against Mazda RX-3s. There were like 10 of them. And I'm the only BMW. And so they hated me. And like the third year, I had this really cool crew chief, Pete Franciosi. He's a maniac they call him that, from Maine. He's big strong guy.
Uh-huh.
And but we showed up one day and said, let's start last. These guys came to my shop. I had a BMW repair shop, and they stole all the wheels off my race car.
Oh, wow.
The day before the race. So I had to find other wheels to put on it. We started last and beat everybody. So that became my thing of showing up late for pre-grid. So you have to start last. And the course workers on pre-grid, where all the cars are lined up, they had this chalkboard, and they would say 5-minute warning, and they'd walk down. So everybody was in their cars and they get ready to go out on the track. And they started putting my car number on there. Car number 75 or 77 is starting last. And they would let everybody know I was coming. It was fun.
That's amazing.
I had a lot of fun doing it. It was really cool. And I got into pro racing and finished third in my first endurance race, 6-hour endurance race at Sears Point with one of my coworkers, which was really cool. And then ended up buying one of my customers bought me a Corvette to race 24-hour endurance races.
Wow.
Until I rolled it up into a ball 14 times at Laguna Seca. But,
wow.
It was a great time for me just to show up with it. After I wrecked the Corvette, I got hired by Volvo and Mazda factory teams to just be the night driver. So I get in at midnight, and they'd leave me in there until somebody wanted to get back in.
Wow.
Normally it's 4 hours is the maximum. And one time at Toronto, Canada, I was in for like 5.5 hours. I said, hey guys, anybody else want to drive? It's like, and it's funny because every car, I'd never been to these tracks before. I'd never been in the cars before. These guys had these cars for a year or two. And I always go faster than the other 3 drivers.
Wow.
I was just focused on every lap being perfect. Perfection to me is my life. I've always been too focused on that part. But I kind of given that up a little bit. But that made me who I was. I had track records everywhere.
Amazing.
I still have a track record at Laguna Seca in Formula 2000, which is a little IndyCar kind of thing, open wheel. And then, of course, they changed the configuration of the track so it'll stand for life. But
wow, that's cool.
That's just fun.
Cool. Yeah.
Fun thought. Yeah.
Well, so you're done racing. When did life take a turn where you end up in San Quentin? And this is one of the most unbelievably amazing stories.
Yeah, well, I went through a lot of stuff. I had a very successful BMW shop for many, many years, and things changed. My third wife, who I had 2 little boys with, decided I worked too hard and said, if you don't change it in 6 months, a year, say, we're done. And I said, give me 3 months. If I don't think I change it, I'll sell the business. in a month she was gone, and broke my heart. So I basically sort of gave up the business and brought it home to my garage at home and worked there. But that really set me up for bad choices and doing stupid things, and got into meth. I guess I could tell people I ended up making it because I'm like a chemist, and I only made it for myself. And I had this process of, to me, the process was addicting, not the meth, but it helped my ADD. It helped me focus. If I was in a race car, I was cool, but otherwise in life, I was scattered. I was out there.
Wow.
And during that time, I invented a tool design, which I have a patent on, finance and engine design patent, and which we put into a race car before that. But it was something that I did for 3 years, and then decided it was not wise. I didn't like where I was going with it, so I quit. And I was having my boys every other week for the week, and it was just a kind of a bummer time. And then my wife moved 100 miles away, so I was riding my GSXR 1000 in the afternoon to watch my boys play soccer 100 miles away, and then back to work.
Wow.
And they were sometimes on 2 different fields, so it was like crazy. But I'd 150 miles an hour, and it doesn't take very long. So,
that's right.
And that's how I rode every day.
Wow.
Every day I rode 150 miles an hour up the freeway in California, up to Sacramento, Roseville. It just never got stopped, never got chased. I only got chased till I got in trouble. That's another story. But I ended up hanging out with the wrong people, and ended up living in my car for a little bit. I lost my business. That story is a whole story about child support and me being on unemployment, so I couldn't afford it. Didn't know you had to change the order, so they got me in big trouble. They were going to put me in jail for 2 years. I went to a girlfriend's house, was doing meth. I told her to stop. It's no good for you. She went to Greece. I found some there, put it in my pocket. I was going to show it to her when she got back from Greece. I said, you promised you weren't doing it. Riding my red motorcycle back to my house, slow, because I knew it was in my pocket. And the cops pull into my driveway behind me. We caught you, like cars everywhere. I said, what do you mean? I said, we're trying to outrun us. I said, that wasn't me. And I finally convinced them it wasn't me, but they said, well, we just checked and you had this, you missed your child payments, whatever, empty your pockets. I had to put my pockets out on his.
Oh, wait.
And that's how this whole thing started with it was 30 days in jail, but it was the start of once you're in the system, Anyways, I was with this girl I thought I was in love with. She was half my age, living around dumpster divers and the whole crazy part of my life, which I actually have some fond memories of. It was a crazy time, but, it was a learning experience. Anyways, I had stopped doing meth and I'd stopped all that. And I thought she had a girlfriend that was caught smoking meth. And her boyfriend, who she had 2 kids with, plus she was pregnant, turned her into the cops. So the cops said, turn somebody in, we're going to take your kids away from you. So she wasn't allowed in my house because I knew she was smoking meth while she was pregnant. But she was my girlfriend's best friend. So she showed up one day at this house I was taking care of. And the guy happened to be a furniture restorer who was in county jail, a free place to take care of for a year. And she showed up. I was getting a beer out of the fridge and came out and said, what's she doing here? She's leaving. Okay. So she left and there was a knock on the door. And I opened up the door and there was a cop. He said, can I come in? I want to talk to you. I said, no, I'll come out and talk to you. So we went around the corner to talk, and another cop knocked on the door, and my girlfriend let him in. And then they were in. And what had happened was a bag of used chemicals was found in the house, of meth chemicals. She had set us up, brought the cops, blocked the street off in a really nice part of San Jose, California. And because the guy was a furniture restorer, they found all kinds of chemicals. So they had their three things to, charge you with. And a nightmare started. And so long story short, 2 lawyers later, one for her, one for me. I'm older, she's young. She had a prior with an ex-boyfriend that did something stupid. She was going to get 10 years. And they're threatening me with 5, but you'll get off because you're just an old guy. It was her story, her deal. We kind of know that. So the lawyer said, you're done, but she's going to get 10 years. And I said, no, that's not cool. I'm not doing that. She didn't do anything wrong. She was set up, So I did a plea bargain, which is, now I look back, it's really smart. Plea bargains should never be allowed. We both got a year in county jail and did 9 months in county, got out on probation. After about 9 months of showing up every week like I was supposed to, doing the urine test and, showing up on Tuesday at 10 every day, every week. I mean, it was like, okay, one day I showed up and he said, where were you yesterday? This guy, it's like he big tough guy. He just hated me for some reason. He said, we told the people you were staying with that you were supposed to show up yesterday. Turn around, put handcuffs on me, put me back in jail as a parole violator, and decided they're going to give me the full 5 years of my term. So it was basically a setup to make me do my time.
Wow.
So I tried fighting it, and I probably would have gotten maybe 2 years, but I knew this was crazy. Made the mistake of fighting it, and so they gave me the full 5 years, and spent time in the maximum security of county jail. And then somebody didn't like me I don't know if the judge told me to sell my M5 BMW and buy a calendar. Next time you won't be late. It's his parting words to me.
Wow.
It was like, I couldn't believe it. So they decided in the middle of the night I was going to prison, which is, I knew it was coming, but they wake you up at 3 a.m.
Wow.
In the dark, they put you on a bus. You're all confused. They take most of your shit away. You just go somewhere. You go on the freeway. You don't know where you're going. And I show up at San Quentin. It was like, wow, this is like a city. It's like, I've heard this place is bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there I was.
Amazing.
I'm just starting to write the story. It's crazy.
It is. Most people know San Quentin from the outside of Johnny Cash playing there and doing his concert. That's,
Yep.
And it from the inside.
The Chow Hall has a beautiful mural. That's, I wish people could see it. It's just fantastic artwork done by the inmates. But anyways, another story.
Wow. Did fear ever zing you during this time? Was there ever that feeling, or were you, by racing and just your life, more cerebral about it?
That's a funny story, because a lot of people I've talked to about fear, because I have never in my life understood what fear is. I don't understand the concept.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
That's why I raced motorcycles and cars like I did, because after a crash, I was back in another car. I didn't care. It was, I look at the car, that's all messed up. Oh, the guy's going to be pissed at me for wrecking his car. But other than that, it was like, put me back on the horse, dude.
Wow.
I want to ride this bicycle again. So no, I never thought of it that way. It was intense, because I understand danger, and I'd heard all the stories, and the stories were pretty messed up. And a lot of it's true, and a lot of it is something I want to write about and tell people that as long as you respect the people you're around and learn as fast as you can what the rules are, it can work out all right. You don't have to be afraid. You have to be aware in the moment all the time. But And respect is something I learned is that's it. If you disrespect, you either get the crap beat out of you, really beat out of you, or you die. Or you get the crap beat out of you and you die because of it. That's how serious that is. You know, especially with other races, you know, even with your own race, but mostly with other races, it's a big deal. So that's how I carry myself, with respect. But I never understood the fear of it. It was just how am I going to get through this dangerous thing? How am I going to figure this out so I make the best of it and just take it every day as it came? And that's kind of how I survived it and still have all my teeth.
Wow.
Which is cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I duck fast.
There's so many questions I have about the human nature inside prison. So I don't know if I've told you this, but I've been a Christian minister, preacher. I ran my own ministry, worship leader. I've been writing songs since I was 7 years old. My first song I wrote when I was 7 years old.
Really?
Yeah, it just piano, all instrumental. Came out with the album when I was 20, all instrumental album, original music that I wrote. But I've also been singing and had a band. And I would go play worship at these penitentiaries. So I would go and I'd get invited by some group that's going to minister the inmates, and I would go lead worship. And I had never been at that time more scared. It's funny, you didn't know fear. I lived in fear. I just was constantly afraid you know a little bit of my story, or my story. I mean, but I was just constantly in fear, just broken to the core.
Which surprises me for your stature.
I know.
It's like,
I tell some people think I'm a small guy. I saw when I have men's retreats and guys meet me for the first time, they're like, "Oh, I thought you were like 5'7".
Right? Yeah, like me.
Yeah, I'm a big guy. But I was so afraid, and it was amazing because I was there for 3 days, and I went through all the I forget what they call them, movements, or it was at Shelton Penitentiary, which is the processing penitentiary before they send people. So it's general population of the state penitentiary,
right,
where they send people to maximum down to Walla Walla, or this island nearby where the sexual predators go and all these things. So I'm in there with these guys, and I was afraid. It was amazing, like the fear, because I recognized that spirit, that animal spirit in there, that I just that zero sum, all like. Yeah, I felt it. I was like surrounded by how I feel like I grew up. It was hundreds of them. I'm like, holy shit. And I'm there to play music. And I learned about the races. And I saw a guy actually I grew up with there. He armed robbery and stabbed the guy. I wasn't too good of friends with him, but I'd hang out. He grew up in the neighborhood my buddy grew up in. I hadn't seen this guy in years. All of a sudden, I'm like, hey, he's like, he didn't say anything. He just saw me and kept walking. He's a Filipino guy. But I bring all this up is just, I got a chance to see inside, and I went to penitentiary in Monroe, Washington, and I played worship there. But it is a different world inside there. And I have to tell you a cool thing, a real quick story. I've always, ever since I was young, I've had these visions of like arenas filled with people, and just the Spirit of God moves on people. Just, I've seen like so many times that I'm playing worship music to God, singing, just crying out to God, and like God moves. That's the only way I can describe it. Like water, like washes through. And at the maximum, or the processing penitentiary that I was in. So guys went to maximum, guys went everywhere there.
Right.
And I was there for 3 days, and I went and ate lunch with them. We were and the warden or whoever the guys were saying, when that buzzer buzzes, you move with them. You don't sit around so we were going through everything with these guys. I traded a brownie for cornbread with a guy. The guy had scars all over his face. Looked like he got pushed through glass,
Oh, yeah.
Big dude, big man. He was like 6'6", 6'7", big dude. Anyway, so I was through this. I start leading worship, and there's like 300 inmates in this room. And, everyone's sitting around there at first, like, all right, something to do other than whatever else they were going to do. They're sitting in there. And because how I grew up, I've always loved God. That is one thing about me. Like who God is, what God is, like, it doesn't even matter. I have like yearned for like the love of God because I didn't have love anywhere else. So I just yearned for it. So I started playing. And all of a sudden something happened in that room where all of a sudden I start crying and these men start crying. And I mean, Larry, bawling, crying. And it goes, bang, whatever, to in the room. And I look over and these guys are like on their knees. No one's saying anything. I'm just singing like, I remember the song. I can't think of it right now, but the warden's like, or whoever the guard was, he's like, just keep it going. It was the first time they said
absolutely,
continued something beyond like that, but it was amazing to see men just nowhere else to go but in and out, like pour their hearts out.
Wow, that's the thing about being there is all that stuff builds up every day. And I would have loved to have seen that because I have never seen that.
They've never
in prison.
The guys, when we left, they said they've never extended. They called it a movement. I forget what they called it, a movement or something like that, or that they never have extended one of those things in that penitentiary's history. But because the guys were it wasn't show. It was like something. I have chills right now. It was really an amazing thing to be part of and to witness. And I was like, wow, God, is this what you've shown me since I was a little boy? And
well, that's just it.
That's it.
Right there.
Yeah.
You healed them for a day. I'll bet you one thing. There were no fights that day. And the guards loved you for that because the guards could let their guard down because that tension is palpable all the time, 24/7. That's why so many guards commit suicide, get divorced. It's a crazy job to have, but being around those men, what you felt is absolutely real. And it is not something, if you haven't been there, you cannot understand it because these are some serious dudes that have nothing to lose but their respect and their manhood. And so that is the battle 24/7. The respect and your manhood. And if you lose that, you're dust, you're gone. So it's being around that energy it's
intense.
And I'm a little guy, right?
So tell me the journey for you in there.
I walked through with these seriously scary dudes. I just walked with them like I was part of them. I made a mistake that it's San Quentin. West Block is 250 guys on a side of this 5 tiers tall. So there's 500 guys in this building. Noisy and crap, but murderers, child molesters, transvestites, everybody's in there together, and you all have to exist together. You have to shower together when you get your 5-minute. This section goes down, and they all shower together in 5 shower heads, and make sure you're fast. The soap's not off too bad. And when you don't look at anybody, you don't. It's all serious stuff, but. I'm the first day I was out, of course, I showed up in the middle of the night, and that's what they do to intimidate you. It's a beginning of crushing your soul and your spirit and your confidence, because that's how they that's how they get control over you. And I get into San Quentin in the middle of the night. They put me in a cell the cells are 9 feet long. They're 4 feet wide, and they're maybe 8 feet tall. So the upper bunk is like, you can't put your arm up. It's just the ceiling's right there. It's all concrete.
Wow.
So I crawl up onto this mattress, it used to be 1 inch thick, and now it's like half just fabric, and it's all piss stained and rusty. And they give you some shirts, some clothes, and a blanket, and they throw you in there 3 a.m, and then you wake up for chow, and you go to chow before the sun comes up. They give you chow at breakfast at like 4 a.m. It's all about screwing up your routine to control you and to break you down. So anyway, so you go to sleep for a while after chow, and then you go back out to the yard. And the first time on the yard is like, there's all gangs, the Mexicans, the blacks, they're all over this. It's probably half the size of a football field, this yard. And there are invisible lines on the ground that I had no idea of. And I walked across across the 12-inch tile onto a Mexican's space. And they have people posted up everywhere. I didn't realize at first either, watching everything that goes on. So I got in trouble for that, and I was supposed to get beat up for it the very first day there.
Wow.
So they convinced the Mexicans that I was brand new. An old guy. Like I've always been in great shape, but so I never looked my 50 some odd years old. And so they said, you got, treat him with respect. We'll make him do a whole bunch of push-ups and stuff. So they let that go. But I didn't realize that it's like an invisible world that controls everything.
Yeah.
And if you violate any part of it, you'll get stabbed or get the crap beat out. See, the thing about the gangs in prison, most of it is done by your own guys because they don't want a riot. So if you violate, like if you played cards with a Mexican and you lost, and what they use in prison is top ramen soups. Well, at least when you get, San Quentin didn't have that, but if you can't pay your debt with your top ramen soups, you owe debt, your own guys have to beat you up for it.
Wow.
And they have to beat you up properly. And you have to fight back. If you don't fight back hard enough, they beat you even harder. And the Mexicans have to see this happen.
Wow.
So that's how people don't die. You just get your teeth knocked out. It's a crazy world, dude. And I mean, I look back at it, and I'm grateful that I ended up in San Quentin instead of some rat hole somewhere. I wanted to have a story, like this dragon tattoo.
Yeah.
I hated tattoos. I thought they were stupid. It's like, okay, that's kind of weird. I'm never going to ruin my skin that way. I'm too into health and been taking vitamins by the handful since the 60s, And this dragon tattoo happened in the last 2 months of my term at High Desert State Prison.
Wow.
You want me to tell you that part?
Yeah, tell us.
Because San Quentin, it became a routine. I followed the rules. I learned the game. I couldn't sleep at all. I've had back issues and stuff, and I've been in car accidents and motorcycle all my life. I've been banged up and I couldn't sleep. So the cell next to me, I was in the middle row of the third tier up, and next to me was this American Indian guy who was the head of the Indians, right?
Yeah.
And he used to get this medication, which I figure I'll take anything. I don't care what it's for. I'll take it because it maybe it'll help me sleep, make you drowsy, right? Yeah. So I would write poetry for him so he could send it to his girlfriend on the outside.
Wow.
And so I built my own little way of surviving by writing letters and stuff for guys, and which was kind of cool.
By the way,
but anyways,
you are a tremendous writer.
Oh, well, thank you.
Love your writing, and when your book comes out, everyone just get ready for it because it's so. You just have a really beautiful way and honest and strong way of telling stories. So I just want you. I don't want to honor your writing. I bet those guys loved it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was. I got that from my dad. My dad used to write poetry and stuff. So
that's cool.
But no, I was really smart when I was a little guy. I read the Encyclopedia Britannica when by the age of 10, I'd read the whole thing, and I could tell you what was in it. And I just found out Elon Musk did that at the age of 9, so he beat me by a little bit.
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
But my dream as a kid, dude, was I wanted to know everything there was to know. I was like fascinated by knowledge. And then going into high school, parents fought all the time. It was a shit show.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole nother story.
Mm-hmm.
But knockdown dragouts and racing off in cars, and me and my buddy up on the hill betting on who was going to leave the house first. And it was terrible. But where was I going with
knowledge?
this? Yeah, I got it because the parents split up in high school. I had to work my way through being a senior just to eat. I got in trouble by the principal who stood in the parking lot one day. I was driving back in. I used to deliver computer cards to IBM from my dad's business in Burlington in Vermont. And I do it at 6. I do it at noon. I do it at 6 at night. And I deliver punch cards, the old computer days.
Wow.
So I show up to school late for homeroom, and the principal hated me for it because I wouldn't. Sorry, I've got to eat. Mm-hmm. He was waiting for me in the parking lot once, and I saw him. I had a little Volkswagen Bug, and I just aimed for him. So I got expelled for 2 weeks. So, anyways, but because of all that, I found LSD, and I found that LSD, psilocybin, MDA, you name it, I did it. Anything that was mind expanding, and I saw what's possible. That was, to me, fascinating. And I did that for years.
This before your race car days?
Yeah.
So this is okay. Yep.
I was one day. My brother used to go up to Toronto, Canada, and bring it across the border until he got busted. But he had like a whole baggie full of orange sunshine, and I took 23 hits one night of acid, and I was gone for 3 days. I made up my own language. But I saw the most incredible world, like a different universe, and then another one. It was like mind-changing. But after all that, I started, fall foliage in Vermont's beautiful, but the luster of the colors of the leaves was gone. So I stopped. That's when I stopped, and I changed my focus to cars and got into racing. But yeah, that's a crazy time. But that took away my, kind of changed with the parents and all that and the drugs. Mind expanding as they were, it kind of softened me for knowledge. But it did teach me one thing, that the knowledge is up there.
Yeah.
In the Akashic record. And I accessed it. I couldn't bring anything back, but I knew it was there. And I learned through life when I needed to fix a problem, wake up in the morning with the answer. And I've done that my whole life.
It's amazing.
It's a cool thing.
Yeah, I would say that the audience of this podcast, I've even had I've had my own Akashic Records read, and Beautiful Soul, Lori Martinez, on a few times. And so my audience knows about the Akashic Records. To live in that knowingness that everything is,
it's all there.
It's all there. It's all there. Which, I believe that God is love, and the whole universe fabric is based on this law of love, which of course then it would be all there, because it's all there. It's not withheld. It's just, we're not taught or encouraged or aware enough to know how to access, which I think is what this dark consciousness that we're seeing leave the earth right now has been from us.
I think part of it could be, this is just my theory, is we're not supposed to know all that yet. We're here for a unique experience. And that's why prison to me was a gift. As nuts as it was, and as hard, and it crushed me. I came out a destroyed person. I couldn't even drive a car when I got out, and I was a race car driver. That's how they crush your spirit. But I think I look back at that as, hey, you can't buy that experience. You don't go through things like that in life. And if you look back at them as a huge bummer that haunts you, although last night my dreams were about being chased by the cops again.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because I was chased 9 times on my motorcycle and never caught. Helicopters and everything after me. Wow. I got stories that go on for hours, but no, that's life, dude. We are here to experience. Doesn't matter what it is. Yeah. And I think that's why I don't have fear, because it doesn't matter. Yeah. the fear only holds you back from the experience.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
You know, you see danger and you don't want to kill yourself. You don't want to die because we're here for the experience. And I've been in places where I wanted to commit suicide when I was younger. Life got pretty tough for me. And I realized that that's not something I could do because that's cheating. And then I started to learn that I'm here. I have a purpose to be here. I want to have fun. I want to be that. I want to experience it all, which my ancestors taught me at 2 journeys ago. Both sides of a palm tree, Germans on one side, Brits on the other, used to fight each other. They're warriors. They survived, and out came this guy. And they said, we're experiencing existence through you. So that's your purpose.
Amazing.
So
that's amazing. Real quick, just because the question is still in my mind, how long were you in San Quentin for?
I was only there. I've been married 3 times. And I couldn't tell you how long to each one.
Yeah.
But I would say about 4 months before I got transferred to High Desert State Prison.
Wow.
Which is way up north in the boonies, up by Nevada, I found out through the job that I got there that it's twice as dangerous as San Quentin. More deaths by stabbings and more deaths by hanging and more deaths by medical issues than any other prison in California.
Wow.
But I had a whole story about that, just showing up there because they take you out of San Quentin in the middle of the night. And that story is I survived it. And I just got a taste of, okay, that's the worst place. Well, maybe it wasn't, but take you out of there at 3 a.m. again, put you on a bus, take you down a tunnel, put you on a bus, all these guys. You have no idea where you're going. Nobody will tell you. We went to, I can't think of it right now, the prison up by Sacramento. It's built with these giant granite blocks. It's a beautiful place. But anyways, we go through there, drop off a guy, and then off we go, drive all afternoon into the night. We're all chained up, right? You got ankle chains on, you got wrist chains on, and there's 40 guys on a bus, people pissing their pants because that's where we sit until we get where we're going.
Yeah.
People shitting their pants, and the bus stinks, and you're just like holding it, and you're just like going. And middle of the night, we're driving down this road, and I don't even know where. And I look off the distance, and I see these giant lights, like I thought it was a spaceship at first. And they get closer we get, we see these light towers, like 200 feet tall, with these huge lights, and it's like daytime. And that was High Desert State Prison. And Susanville Prison, which is right next door. The 2 of them have like 6,000 inmates. So it's a giant place. And then Susanville, the town, is all where the cops live. And there's nothing around for 100 miles but that. And
did that looking at the other men in there, are you aware of what they did to get there, or is it at that point just everyone's there and it's more about the respect and who they are there versus how they got there?
Well, that's interesting because the head of each gang, the head of the whites, we're called Woods. There's the Norteños, the Sureños, the Paisas. There's 3 different Mexicans, and then there's the Crips and the Black. All that stuff.
Yeah.
When you come in, the head of the group asks you what you're in for, and he already knows what you're in for.
Oh, interesting.
Because they're all hooked up with the cops. They've been there forever, and they want to know if you're honest, and if you're in there for either molesting women or children.
Yeah.
Because that's a death sentence. That is straight up death.
And they already know.
They already know. So you tell them the truth and don't tell them any more than they ask, and don't ask anybody what they're in for. So no, that's the respect part. You're just there with a bunch of guys doing their time, and you watch your back 24/7. You watch your back. You don't make friends, you make acquaintances, but you try to be friendly and get your little group together, because everybody needs some kind of protection,
Right.
and to survive with someone to talk to. I mean, it's a nutty place. It's a place to go nutty.
Was there ever humanity shown? I mean, the guards, I just, even from my own experience, and I a friend of a friend's a prison guard, and it's been hard on his family. And like, what's the dynamic between the human lens versus the guards? And do you ever see humanity with those two? Is it something that
I saw very little humanity with inmates, but the guards are the deal, because some of them are super sadistic, just nutcases who love torturing and humiliating, and it's like a drug for them. And part of my survival was I found 3 cops. One of them was the biggest cop on the yard who had respect from everybody, a giant guy that protected me from the other guards. I worked for the sergeant's office in the last year and a half or so. And Sergeant, I guess, should I use his name?
Sure, yeah.
Sergeant Johnson hated me. He hated me, and I have no idea why. I found out I was a race car driver, and he said, real hard going around in circles. And one day I go there at 7 a.m, and he look outside and says, what's the weather like? I said, well, it's cold out there this morning, Sergeant Johnson. It's like the middle of the winter in high desert.
Yeah, freezing.
He says, well, I'm not really sure. Why don't you go out there on that bench? And you're in a t-shirt, right? Go out on that bench and let me know how the weather is. I'll come out and ask you. An hour goes by. I'm shivering my ass off. It's like, okay, let's just look around. He comes out. He says, hey, he opens the door. How's the weather out there? I said, Sarge, it's cold. It's really cold out here. Okay, good. Well, let me know how it is. The next hour, I'll come out and check again. He left me out there till lunchtime, just as a fucked up thing to do. And I was like, and the other cool thing about a story, I actually wrote about this and drew a little. We were in the middle of this 2 mountain ranges, and off in the distance were these 2 giant rainbows, one over the other. Because there was this mist in the sky or this rain off in the distance, and it was just this gorgeous thing I wouldn't have seen otherwise. And so I have to thank, like I say, grateful for that experience, because this guy did everything he could to give me more time. He tried to get me to spend more time there, because when you go to prison, you go in for halftime. So I was basically there for 2.5 years, and anytime you get written up with a 602, you get another 30 days, 90 days. And he pushed to do this to me.
Wow.
And I never went for it. I even got in trouble with the warden. They brought in a lady for Social Security for old guys getting out, because you don't get Social Security when you're in. And then you got to get out and figure out how to get it. So I set up to bring this lady in. I did all kinds of cool shit there. I taught GED and all this other stuff, but brought this lady in to interview guys, get all paperwork set up, so the day they got out, the money would start again. You don't get the back stuff. You just get from there forward. And that was like this cool thing that helped me have purpose and survive. And as Officer Moffat said the last couple of days I was there, he said, Knapp, you're one of very few who's going to leave here with this humanity.
Wow.
And I wish you all the luck.
Wow.
Because everybody comes back here. Everybody. And in California, 90% of the guys come back within the first year. The violators they try to violate you, because in California, it's a business. It's worth $135 a day back then. So they got to fill the beds.
Yeah.
And that's what they do.
Which is so sick and evil. It's
It is sick and evil.
It is.
Exactly.
It is. It's on many sides. So let's get in, and as we kind of go through the last part of this podcast episode.
Right.
Let's talk about, you had your early journey of psychedelics and consciousness expansion, which also, interestingly enough, I was wondering how you could see. I mean, you tapped into consciousness while you're driving your vehicle. So, okay. So
Yeah.
those tools, those
super focus
guides helped you see the truth of what we can actually see, which is our whole perspective. And then go through this whole journey. You come out and you and I meet at a ayahuasca ceremony. And I, even in the short time I've known you, I've seen massive, cool, beautiful change. Even you coming on here, which is such an honor for me to get to hold space for you in this way. But
never would have happened before in my life. I'm just a shy little kid.
What a journey. How did you get into? How were you called into ayahuasca? How has that, and everyone listening, this is such an important thing. I talk about this many times. Healing. The plants, what do they say? Eat more vegetables to be healthier, right? Well, it's the same thing. Be healthy physically, healthy spiritually, healthy emotionally, healthy psychologically, healthy, in every component. Spiritually, did I say spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? All these components.
Right.
The vegetables, the plants of this earth hold the keys for us. So it's just tremendous. But how did you go into that? How did you get called back into this world or into this?
Well, it's magic and amazing how it happened. But I've been out 12 years now. And for the first 10 of it, I would think, wow, I'm so much better than I was. I got a job finally. I used to hide in my first apartment I had blankets over all the windows and stuff, and I'd peek out the front door once in a while. I was scared to death to go outside. Wow. But I have healed in chunks and always thought, wow, way better. And then my girlfriend talked to my sister who put money on my books in prison so I could have candy bars. And actually I used it to buy more protein. But my sister's going to come to Miami and said a business trip, and we're going to have lunch. When I get there, we'll talk about your trip. And I said, what trip? They said, we'll talk about it when I get there. So we go to lunch at this fancy place down in Miami, and with my girlfriend, Nancy, who has put up with me for 8 years now. An acupuncturist, a healer, a nutritionist.
Wow.
Has put me back together in little pins and little pieces, right? The pin the tail and the donkey stuff. It's been amazing. But so I said, you're going to Rhythmia in Costa Rica. I'm paying for both of you guys to fly down there and do this $4,000 each. She just paid for the whole thing. Wow. You need to heal. You're not better yet. You're not better. Nancy knows you're not better. And I wasn't. I was still drinking a little bit. And when I drink, I would get stupid angry. I would do stupid shit. It was prison coming back out, kept coming out. I never faced prison. So I went down there, and the last tea I took, I was there fighting there's 80 people throwing up, barfing, thinking that they're being attacked by snakes and crazy stuff. And I'm just sitting there, the warrior in the corner, right? I got my arms across my gut, just holding it in. I'm not puking. I don't puke. I'm a warrior, right? So the last cup of tea in the morning, the last morning, that just as the sun's about to come, I went and had another cup. And I'm sitting there, stomach hurting like crazy. And I said, screw it. I'm going to throw up. So I drew this bucket in front of me. Everybody had a white plastic bucket, and I puked in the bucket, and hardly anything came out. It was probably just part of the plant. And I looked in there, and I saw a prison.
Wow.
And I went, holy shit, look at the light towers and the guard stands. And so I slid it away, and I said, well, no, I don't want you anymore. And that was the start. And so when I came back to Miami, a client of my girlfriend, Nancy's, knew about this place to do it. So, all right, I need more of that, but I didn't want to puke. I didn't want that stomach thing. Turns out it's mellow magic. It is sacred plants with benevolence and love.
Yeah.
And it took, I think I've done it maybe 10 times now, but it took up until the second to the last one, improving each time. And then the time before saying, I'm never coming back. I felt everybody's crap, and all I do is take shit in, and because I'm kind of empathic.
Yeah.
I got a bad brain injury in prison. I got thrown on my head. I'd never been knocked out in my life. I went blind in prison. Didn't know where I was, what to do about it. Didn't know if I was going to get knifed or die or whatever. I had double vision and forgot everything I used to know. So I had to relearn everything when I got out of prison. And so where was I going with this?
Talking about, you took everything
off. So the second to last journey, I went out in solitude by myself instead of helping other people heal, because that's what I've started doing, was getting people over fear, and I've changed people's lives, and I feel like it's my purpose, right? But I'm not dealing with me. So the second to last time I go out and dealt with just me. And I'm sitting out with my arms crossed by the pool, and I'm looking out, protecting this property as the warrior does. And I'm not small anymore. I see myself as a giant.
Yeah, you're mighty.
And I'm not afraid of anybody or anything. And everybody around me knows that I in cars, when people want to mess with me, I have these hands that is bigger than yours.
Yeah.
And I put this out the window, and I say, it's like, this is who I am right here. You want to mess with this hand, and that's you're going to get behind it. And I saw my ancestors while I was out there, and they told me the story about, we were warriors and we fought each other. We came together. We produced you. Own yourself as now my dragon tattoo. So now I'm known as the Dragon Warriors. They said, you are a warrior, and we live through you. And we honor you for your courage and your strength to survive all this. As of whatever stature you think you are, you're a giant. And from that moment on, that's when my writing started. I mean, I used to write stuff, and it was like, yeah, okay, it's all right. But now it's just notes for me to really write. The passion comes out of me. The prison is no longer an issue. It's a strength. It's a story that I want to share with people, because you can go through some serious shit in life, and then nothing needs to keep you down.
That's right.
And that's kind of my story, is like, if you can go through all this, I mean, people go through worse, but I've through a lot of bad stuff. And I just use it as experience to share with other people and heal people in love. And that's what you do. And that's why you're such a cool dude.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah.
I will never forget sitting right next to you, and you're like, who are you? And I'm like, it was like, because you, as you know, also, and I know in our own unique way, to sniff out it all.
Yeah.
All of it. All 100% of any
all the bullshit.
All of it. Yes. And so I'll never forget that moment. I'm like, you look at me and I shake your hand and like,
it's like,
I'm here. You're like,
at first I went, who the fuck is this guy? And then it's like, put our hands over each other in that circle of guys.
That was amazing.
I have never done that in life. I've never had guy friends. I had like a guy here and there, whatever. Never a group of guys. And the group that we made from that night has healed me and made me so much more.
So cool.
It's cool. I love life now. It's just fascinating to me. Yeah. So, and you're saying to me, looking over at me, said, we should do something with this. We should make a movie. It's like, who the hell is this guy? I said, but you said it with authority. Like, I looked over at Jason, like, because I know Jason, the firefighter, and he's like, yeah, he's for real. And I went, wow. And I felt your energy at that moment. And it's like, then I started telling you my stories. Like, this guy needs to hear this. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have friends. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of getting it out. The world is healing. The way I look at it is Rome has stolen the knowledge of the earth from every human on this planet. They have conquered, and then what they did is they conquered and they burned the truth of those local areas. They conquered the world. The entire world was conquered by Rome.
Right.
They wiped out the indigenous truths on this entire planet and traumatized those who did not submit. They took away the plants of every culture, every peoples, every tribe, every tongue, everyone came grew up with the plants.
Right. The Romans destroyed the humans.
It's either human or Roman.
Right. Yeah.
That's the two sides that we're on right now. Roman being the reptilian, human, hue, a shade of light, the light beings,
hue, right.
Or the reptilian beings on this planet. And this is not to attack Catholic people. This is to say the mechanism, the machinery, the Borg, the insidious, unsatiable machine on this plane, this realm, this time and dimension that will take everything from you. And even say at your deathbed, you still better say a prayer because you're not sure. They have stolen everything from humanity. Right. And here to see you and I and all these beautiful beings, beautiful. I mean, I have chills right now, just incredible humans coming together right now to love. And truly, you don't have to say God, it is the love of God. You don't have to say it is God. God is here moving and touching our heart.
Let me tell you something real quick.
Yeah.
When I was 10 years old, I walked out of catechism, what do they call that?
Uh-huh.
I was pissed that I had to crayon Jesus and I couldn't sit in that cool room with all the neat windows and the organ. So I walked 5 miles home in Shelburne, Vermont. I just walked home, and that was the last time religion to me is just a way of people controlling people and hurting people and 100%. Wars and all. 100%. But until I heard you speak about religion the way you do, I can speak to it now. It's not like a bad word to me. Like, it's not just the religion people practice. It's God is not that. It is all of us.
Yes, man, I'm chilling right now. I do.
It's cool.
It is so cool. There's this old preacher, A.W. Tozer, and I've said this quote many times on this podcast. And I might have even shared this with you because it affirms everything you've shared in this podcast. He said, "A man with an experience is never at the mercy of a man with an argument."
Right.
With an experience.
I love that.
Never at the mercy of a man with an argument. And what religion of the system, the Romanistic, reptilian, inhuman system, the sadists that guard the inmates, which is like, who's the sicko, right?
Yeah.
This system, they have made it argumentative. They're trying to convince every person, but they have no experience themselves. They can say, I not only went into the fire and stood in the fire, and I can tell you what fire is, versus don't touch that. That's fire. It's like, you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah. Right. There's all this.
I read the satanic, everything from Bhagavad Gita, all the spiritual texts of because I came from this verbal assassin, because after I had to hold on to something. So I held on to this thing I could hold on to, which was Christianity in the form that I was able to hold on to. But then I became because I was so angry, just an assassin, verbal assassin at every single person, because I was still trying to protect, don't hurt me anymore. So I was just hurting people in the name of love, in the name of God, in the name of religion, in the name of salvation. Right. Of whatever it was, until I was like, wow, I'm just as broken as every other person, and I really need to heal. And to see the beauty, the oneness, the oneness, but also like the painting behind you, the fractals of light that are all hues of light, the beauty of this existence.
Yeah.
Come from the healing and the vulnerability and the strength. And we're all giants when we understand we're giants. They make us feel small. It doesn't matter. I'm 6'3". I'm not even big compared to another 7 foot giant,
right.
giants are nothing compared to the titans that walked the earth at one time. Like, right. So there's always, but the presence that we can bring supersedes any physical material thing. It's like, man, this is the truth of who we are. And it's so beautiful to see you. And
an open mind can't be controlled. So
that's it.
Yeah.
And an open heart can't be
broken.
Can't be stopped. That's it.
Right. And that's what's so cool about this little group of guys we have right now. We all feel the same way. And I think together, hey, we're warriors on a new path.
Yes.
To heal the earth. I mean, how far can we go? I'm looking for purpose. Yeah. And I like this one.
Well, I'll just share how far we can go. I've shared this with my wife and my closest friends. I'm going all the way. That's what I'm here for. I'm going. The one thing you can count on me is whoever listens to this, I'm going all the way. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. There's a quote that I have behind me. It's something that came to me years ago is that darkness is not a counterforce to light. Darkness exists in the absence of light. And the Romanistic system wants us to say, accept darkness. And I'm not talking about shadow work. We need to shadow and understand, but I'm talking about darkness, the absence of light. And we're taught that it's just the way it is. And no, we are the light. And I will not stop until there is no more crooks, crannies, crevices, doors, secrets, underground, basements, in the closets, all the things. We must bring light to it all so we all can heal and come together and realize, wow. And what's so beautiful is you with your story is the story. We don't have a modern day Rocky. We have a fictional story of Rocky.
Right.
But what I've talked about this many times on the podcast is that Hollywood, the Roman system, has given us false senses of heroes, superheroes, fake fictional heroes. But the world is looking for real heroes, men and women who have said, and I was, and now I am, like I've gone through this.
Right.
And you're a hero. You are a hero. You're a warrior hero, brother.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot to me. Yeah, we're gladiators of love now.
Yes, we are.
How about that?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I'll have to tell you
that in a complete way.
Yeah, I will tell you. Just as we close, talking about love, I was on a heroic dose of psilocybin, and I was journeying by myself, sacred and intention, and I heard God tell me, it's time, call the law of love on the earth. And I was like, okay. And so I slammed my hand into the ground and the earth is now under the law of love. And I felt light shoot through my hand through every tunnel, crap, like everything. The law of love now supersedes on this earth. And this is only a year and a half ago. And all of a sudden I traveled. I've never seen beings of any type. I've always seen like God's perspective of humans, but all of a sudden I travel in all of this tunnel and there's this giant, maybe 24-foot, four-legged reptile looking creature. I can draw it out. I can see it right now. Yep. And it backed up all the way into where it couldn't back up anymore. Cool. And I look at it and it looks at me and it doesn't want to leave. And I said, you can't stay here. You have to go.
Wow.
And it left. It like vanished in this. And
I love that.
We are the gladiators of love to go and just, that's what I mean. Like, doesn't matter where they're trying to hide.
Right.
We're here. We are here now.
There's no one too tough to tackle either.
No. No. I love you, brother. I really do.
I'm so glad I met you, dude.
Yeah.
You're changing my life. This is really cool.
It's cool. I got chills on my back. I just,
I got your back. I got your side. I got your front. Whatever it takes.
I know you do, man. I have same you. I love you, everyone. I just want you to know that this beautiful man is is someone that you can look to. And when your book comes out and when your story is told on a broader scale than even my small imprint on this realm, it is going to be spectacular. So thank you, brother, for having the courage to share it.
Thanks for saying so. I love you, brother.
Love you too. Brother Larry, thank you again for coming on. And everyone, it just shows you it doesn't matter where you are, how old you are, how young you are, doesn't matter. There is always the opportunity to heal, always the opportunity to go in, always the opportunity to face that which you need to face, to unchain yourself from the past and to free yourself in the infinite and unconditional love of God. This is our time. This is your time. I hope you're just basking in this. There is nothing that you cannot receive in this moment. There is nothing that you cannot walk in, live in, breathe in. All the people that are haters, all the angry, judgmental, vindictive, all these people, it's just noise that's fading away as you step into your purpose, as you step into your calling, as you step in and walk in the love of God. God loves you. Loves you. And it is our job to do the inner work to open back up our hearts so that we can receive that love. The only thing blocking us from the love of God is not God. It is us. And it takes us to go in, find the courage, open back up, and receive. That's the beauty of this whole journey, brothers and sisters. That's what we're here to find and explore. And it is beautiful. And Brother Larry, you are beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Everyone, please like, rate, subscribe, share, spread the word. The Golden Rule Revolution is moving throughout the world. All over the world, people are listening to this podcast. You are one of them. You are a light bearer. You are a light bringer. You are a light worker. And I bless you all. I'm Lucas Mack. This is the Golden Rule Revolution, and I'll talk to you on the next episode. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for listening. For support in your journey, go to my website, lucasmack.com.